All right, welcome back. We're going to move on to the home page of the portfolio now, and some of these are just going to roll pretty quickly now that we've got some of our bigger stuff out of the way. So in our content guidelines list here underneath the home page, you'll see that we have a few different things to insert, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to combine a couple of these together in this tutorial. So we're going to insert the resume profile and the graphic that goes on the home page all in this one tutorial. Okay, so I'm going to toggle back over to Dreamweaver, and you'll notice that I got my files panel opened. So I need to open the home page, which is index.html. So I'm just going to double click that and open that, and we're going to go back to code view again. So I'm going to switch back over to code, and what we're going to do here is we're going to insert the resume profile at the top, and then also a graphic to go alongside that resume profile. So I have my resume open, and let's see here. I do not. Let's bring it up. There we go. I'm just going to copy and paste my profile directly from my resume into my profile here. So I'm going to go toggle back to Dreamweaver, and you'll notice that the resume profile is inserted as a list, an unordered list. So this actually will be pretty easy. We don't need to style this because since we've already styled a list in the resume page, we really don't need to do anything for this. So as soon as we insert it into this page, it'll look the way we want it to. So I'm going to go through and delete out this chunk of spacing that we put in, all these paragraph tags, so that we're starting clean. And we will need to insert some type of heading at the top. My suggestion would be to go ahead and use that heading 1 that we used on the resume, but you're welcome to use a different heading if you'd like. Like say you want to maybe use the heading 2 that we created, but I'm going to stick with the heading 1 since we've already styled it, and it's got pretty much everything that I need it to be. So I'm going to type in the heading 1 tag, type in profile, and then make sure you close that out with a left caret and a forward slash. So then I'm going to hit the enter return key, and underneath that we're going to start our list. So I'm going to type in the UL tag and drop down a couple lines, and then left caret forward slash, and then I'm going to type in the LI tag and then left caret close that. So I know I have on my profile I have only 3. You will probably have 5, which you definitely want to put in all 5 of those. Okay, so I'm going to do this one at a time again, like I did before on the resume page. So I'm just going to highlight that line, Control C, tab over, and inside that line Command V or Control V. So there we go. I've got my first line, and then I'm going to place my cursor at the end of that line, and probably would have been smart to add a few of these tags in beforehand. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish that out. Last 2 tags there for my 3 profile points. So I have those in there, and then I'm just going to Command Tab back over to my Word document, and then just Control C, come back over, place my cursor in the middle there, and then delete out that bullet point that gets inserted. Place my cursor in the next LI tag, tab over, and then copy again. Command C or Control C, and then Control V, Command V, and then delete that bullet point out. So if I toggle over to live view here, you should see that my profile points are in there, and then my bullet points are spaced correctly as they should be. So now what I want to do is I want to insert an image right over here in this area, on the right hand side of our piece. So what this is going to require me to do is to position that image to the right. Now there's a couple things that that are new with HTML5 and this version of Dreamweaver CC because of that. The alignment properties for images have been demarcated in HTML5, meaning that it'll still work if we try to say align right an image, but it's no longer will no longer be supported in, say, newer browsers, although most browsers will probably still allow you to do that. But the new direction that they're trying to make designers go in is to create or use CSS to align images within a section rather than using HTML, which HTML was just a simple align right property. So we're actually going to go ahead and do it using the CSS version, and we're going to do that by creating a class for that. So I'm going to pop over to code view real quick. And I already have an image set up for you. You guys should also have this as well. So, but first off, you may need to resize that image, and we're going to talk about why we're going to do that here in just a minute. So first things first, I'm going to open up my portfolio folder here, and you'll see that I have that Go Big graphic poster in there. And I want to make sure that I open that first in Photoshop, which I've already done. So I'm just going to go ahead and click and open Photoshop. Now, when we made these posters, you guys made them really large, and we don't want to insert that large of an image into Dreamweaver now, or into our portfolio. Now, we could resize that image inside of our HTML, but it's not a good idea because the page will load that full image size even though the image looks smaller in our page. So we'd rather resize it in Photoshop first, and that way it'll be the correct size, and it'll also be a smaller file size so that the page will actually load quicker in a web browser. So I've saved this image, so image size, you check this out, set up in picas right there, so switch that to pixels. I've set this up to a width of 200 by 309. So this is going to kind of depend on what you want to do in terms of size, and we'll see how this looks when I insert it. I can go back and resize this to make it look a little bit bigger in my page if I need to. Okay, so I'll click OK, and then make sure that when you do save this, File, Save As, that you are saving this in your images folder. So you can see that in when I save in my portfolio images, and then I have that Go Big graphic poster, and I'm saving it as a JPEG. Remember, if you don't want the background to show up, or if you have a if you have a transparent background and you want it to stay transparent, you need to save it as a PNG. Just as a quick side note before we continue here. Okay. So I'll just save that and replace the one that I've already got in there. And always make sure that you save it. I'm going to go ahead and save this as maximum for now. My file size there is 97K. If I save this as medium, it'll reduce it to 58K. So I'm okay with leaving that at like 9740K. Probably not going to make a huge difference in terms of the load time there. Okay, so I've already resaved this and all that kind of stuff, so I'm not going to save over it. I'm just going to hit cancel. Okay, I'm going to tab over to Dreamweaver again, and we're going to insert the image into our code here. But where we insert it is pretty key. We want it to kind of be at the same level as our profile, and so we're not going to actually insert it below the profile. We're going to insert it above the profile. So I'm going to click my cursor there above the H1 and then hit the return key, and then so I have a space there on line 23 to insert my image. So I'm going to do a left caret and type in img space and then src for source, and then I'm going to hit the enter return key to complete that little line out, and then I'm going to hit the enter return key again so I can browse for that file. So I'm going to hit that again, and then I'm going to select my portfolio. Make sure you go through your U drive, please. So in my tutorial, don't worry about it, I'm doing it from my desktop, but you want to make sure that you go to your U drive on the side there when you're browsing for it. Okay, so there's my name. Click on images there, and then I'm going to select the Go Big graphic poster. So I'm going to click open, and then the next thing I want to do is I want to type in an alt piece, and this alt piece allows for disabled people who are blind to know that there's an image there, and it's a screen reader. and it'll read to a person who's disabled or has their images turned off what that's supposed to be, the title of it. So I'm just gonna type in "Go Big Graphic Poster." This could be like, your name or whatever, and you can have spaces in there and all that. It's just gonna read it exactly as it's in those quotation marks. Okay. So from there, I just need to type in a right caret, and when I type in a right caret, it's going to put a forward slash. So all image tags, kind of like the break tag, are self-closing tags. Okay, so here's what's going to happen right now. I'm going to toggle over to live view, and what's going to happen is that that image is going to place itself over the top of the profile. And if you remember right, this is how HTML works. HTML works by the order that it reads your code in. And because this graphic is on top of the profile, it's going to insert that graphic on top of the profile. So the order matters in HTML. That's how a browser parses out your page, is the code in the order that it reads it in. That's the way it displays it in. So in order to move this to the right, we need to apply some CSS styling to this image. The other thing that we also want to do is that when we do that, we're going to want to add some padding around this image itself, because what's going to happen is that this image and the text are going to run really tight into each other, and it's going to look kind of sloppy. So we're going to jump back into code view, and so let's go ahead and address the position issue, the floating issue. So I'm going to click over to my style sheet real quick. And again, this is in our content area. And one of the things that we haven't done yet is we haven't organized. Well, we have organized our styling, but one of the things that we should do, and I'll start doing a little bit pieces at a time here, is putting in what's called notes, and these notes will separate sections for us and make it a little bit easier to read. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my cursor. We're going to be in the content area. Just remember that. I'm going to place my cursor on line 56, and then I'm going to hit the enter return key so that I have an extra space so that I'm on line 57. You might have a slightly different line. The point here is that you want your cursor to be right above where your ID content starts. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to this left toolbar, and you'll see a little button that says apply comment, and there's a little drop down arrow next to it, just like in Photoshop, like when the tools have more than one thing. So I'm going to click on that, and what I want to do is I want to apply the second comment, and this is a CSS style comment. The first one's in HTML, the second one is CSS. So what this does is this allows us to put in text that isn't read by a browser. The browser ignores what's in these little dealy in the forward slash and then the asterisk. You'll notice up above here that the same thing underneath our document type, where it says CSS document, there's already a comment in there when we make a new CSS document. So I'm going to hit the space bar in between there, and what I like to do sometimes is do a couple little dashes here. And I don't know why, it's just something that maybe separates things out here. So you see that I've got, my forward slash there, and I've got a couple little dashes, and it just separates it out a little bit there. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to type in content styles. So see, this section marks that everything below here is going to do with content styles. Now this serves two purposes. One, it helps you as a designer find that area of styling later on. And two, like if you're ever working with a group, or you're designing a website for somebody and they take over, or somebody else takes over, or you're designing with a team, they know where to find the styles that you've created in your style sheet, and so it makes it a little bit more efficient. So we'll do that as we add some more, and we'll implement some more of those those comment types. But it's just a good idea to go through, like say with the nav bar, do the same thing. We're going to do this not for all of them, but just as an example. Like I did again, I entered a return key there, apply the CSS style comment there. There it goes. A couple of dashes in there, and then type in nav bar styles. So see how that works? So it creates a section there that'll be easier to find later on, and then for someone else to find if they need to. Okay? All right, back to where we're at. So I'm going to scroll back to content styles there. I'm going to scroll all the way down to where I have my indent class. Okay? And you notice that there's my footer. So I'm going to take a brief moment. I know I said we were going back to this, but I'm just going to go ahead and do this one more time. Come over here, apply my comment, CSS comment there. Couple of dashes, space there, and then type in footer styles. Okay, since I was down there. Okay, now here we go. Back to line 93. Place my cursor right after that class indent. Hit the enter return key so that I have some space there to create a new style. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a class, and remember, classes start with period, IDs start with pound symbols. Okay, so I'm going to start with a class, and the class is going to be float right. And notice that I have no spaces there, and that I capitalize the R. Whenever I usually do two words like that, I want to make sure that I capitalize the second word. Now we could easily call this align right as well if we want to say we want to use this for something else and it's a little more descriptive for you. So if that works better for you and you say align right, go ahead and use that title. But I'm going to go ahead and call it what it is. I'm going to call it float right, because you'll see here in a minute what I'm doing after I open up my curly brace and hit the enter return key is I'm just going to create a class that essentially the class is float, and it's going to float right. Okay, and make sure you end that with a semicolon and then hit the enter return key and then right curly brace. So I can apply this float right class to just about any element, and so what it's going to do is it's going to float that element to the right. So we're going to apply this class to our image. So I'm going to pop back over to our source code real quick, and I'm looking for that image that we just created for the Go Big poster. And after the Alt line there, place my cursor right after the quotation marks and hit the space bar. My code hint box should come back up, and then I type in class. And then there you go, pops back up in my list there for classes, and so I'm going to select that float right class. Okay, let's see how this looks in live view. Boom, there we go. So we're going to see a couple of different problems here right off the bat. One is that this image is all the way to the right, which is where we want it to be, but it's slammed up against the right and left, or the right and top part of our content div. The other part of this is that our image right now is bigger than our actual profile points, and so what's happening is that our div, our content div here, is only going to expand the length of text. And this is one of the anomalies, I think, of HTML, is that when you have a content area and you have it to auto expand like we do, it only auto expands to fit text. It does not auto expand to fit whatever's inside of it, such as, say, nested div elements or images. So what we have to do is we have to create a unique class to solve this problem. But first, let's solve the image padding problem first. So it looks like what we kind of wanted to do, but we have two issues that we need to fix first. So we're going to pop back over to code view and go into our style sheet one more time. And this time we're going to, what we're going to do is we're going to address the image itself, and we're going to do that in the ID content. So I'm going to actually place my cursor right after that closing curly brace of content li. I like to keep my classes separate from my IDs and my other tags, just so it's easier to find all the classes. So I usually keep the classes either at the bottom of, say, a section or at the top of a section, so it's easier to find them later on. So on line 89, after that closing curly brace, after the content li, hit the enter return key a couple of times and type in the pound symbol content for that ID and img for image. So we're addressing that image tag directly. Okay? So then we're going to open up a curly brace and hit the enter return key, and what we're going to do is we're just going to give it some padding. We're going to do padding 5 pixels. Now we can adjust this later on and maybe we should now, but let's see how it's going to turn out the way we're doing this here. All I really want to do is just give it a little padding around it so that it has, not slammed up against some certain things. So I'm going to click on live view there, and it should space itself out a little bit accordingly from the edge. Okay. So that's what I'd like to see. I don't want it to be slammed there, so we got a little space around the edge there. Okay, but we still have the problem of this expansion deal. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to trick the HTML into thinking that there is some content that goes below it. And the other problem that we're going to have is we want to insert a section below this, and we're going to call it a goal section, and we want it to essentially start fresh and start new below this top section. Well, now that we've floated this image to the right, anything that falls below it is going to also want to float to the left of this image, and we don't necessarily want that. So we're going to solve two problems here. We're going to essentially solve the problem of the expansion, and we're also going to create a solution to the float issue, so that the next section below it doesn't inherit the floating property that we put onto this image, because float properties do inherit within our within the same div tag. Okay, so we're going to click back over to our code view, and this little trick is going to require us to we apply this. We're going to create a class, but this class we can apply anywhere, and so we're not going to just leave it in the content area. We're going to actually scroll up to the top, and underneath the asterisk symbol, this is where I usually like to keep it, because this is like one of those universal type classes that you can use in anywhere on your page. So after that closing curly brace, right after the asterisk on my line 7, I'm going to hit the enter return key, and the class we're going to create is called clear. So we're going to type in a period, and we're going to type in clear. Okay. Then we're going to open up a curly brace and hit the enter return key, and then we're going to type in clear. That's a property, and hit enter return, and then we're going to say both. Now basically both is kind of misleading. It really probably should say all, but what it means is it's exactly what it means. It clears everything above where we place it. And then we're not quite done. We're going to hit the enter return key, and then we're going to type in padding 0, and then enter return key again, and margin 0. So basically we just want to make sure that whatever we're applying this to, the margin and padding are 0. So enter return one more time, and then right curly brace. Okay, so we just created this clear class, and the best way to apply this clear class is actually to a break tag. So we're gonna pop over to our source code here, and we're going to scroll down and find the end of our profile, okay, because we want to actually put this below our profile. So where that closing UL tag is, and it's on line 29 for me, I'm going to hit the enter return key, and I'm going to go ahead and do this one more time, 2 more times, so that I have a little bit of space there. I'm going to place this break tag on line 31. And I'm going to do this on its own line and separate it out so that it's pretty easy to see, and so that when we come back to it and do our second part of the home page, we'll know where to start, and it's pretty clear when we go back to our code where that ends and where that is, so we can see it pretty easily. So we're going to type in a left caret and type in BR, and we hit the space bar, and then we're going to type in class. Okay, so I hit class, and again populates in our list of classes, so hit that and enter that, and then right caret, and remember a break class is a self-closing tag just like our image tag there above. Okay, so now this should take care of our expansion issue, and it should bring down the white from the content, and it'll also allow us to put some content below this break tag here that will clearly have 2 separate sections, and it'll also clear that floating property from the image, as you'll see in just a minute when we go on to the second part of the home page. So click on live view to see what we have, and what you'll see is exactly what we're hoping for. The image now looks like it goes all the way down into the content area, even though our content, our text doesn't fill that whole space. Now your profile may be big enough that it fills out that entire space to fill it up with your image. Okay. Now remember, my image is about 200 pixels wide, 300 pixels tall, give or take. I felt like that was about the right size for what I was trying to accomplish with my page. Okay. Okay, so now we've finished with this section. We got our profile in, our image in. So the next section is we're going to nest a div tag inside of our content div tag for our goals section. And the reason why we're going to do that is so we can, make it a little different, add some styling to it, so it's not just text, on white. We're going to give it a little bit of flair to it, so it creates a, a unique look on our homepage.